It was like the winter time of about 2015, around December. And I turned on the TV, and on ESPN there was a special by SportsCenter called Around the World in 7 days. And it featured a gentleman from Britain. His name is Ted Jackson. When you see him, you realize like he's not your average runner. Because what people think of runners are they're small, petite. And just when I saw that special, I realized that anything is possible if you put your mind to it. And so that's when I realized that I wanted to do the same thing. Well, in 2017, coincidentally again, like in the wintertime in Grand Forks, we were sitting there having, adult beverages, if you will, with some of my friends. Ronald Vicente, who was the ALS Commandant, or Airmen Leadership School Commandant for the Etchberger Leadership School. They were asked to help raise money for the 50th anniversary of the Lima Site 85. If any of y'all are familiar with that, is Chief Master Sgt Etchberger, and he's a Medal of Honor recipient. I told him, I said, hey, what if I run around the world and try to raise money, for this? And he was like, you would do that? I said, yeah, I'd like to do that because, I want to do it for a good cause, right? A few days later, he hit me up. He was like, hey, you still going to run around the world? And I was like, man, I thought you forgot about that conversation. It was probably about January 10th is when I reached out to the Etchberger Foundation and asked if I could run around the world, representing, the Etchberger family name and to raise money for the monument. I received a phone call from Dr. Corey Etchberger, or Mr. Etchberger. They gave me the blessing from the entire, Etchberger family. So my journey was a lot longer than most people's. I drove 3 hours north to Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. I took a flight from Winnipeg to Toronto. I spent the night in the Toronto airport, and then we got on the plane and I flew from Toronto, Canada to Ethiopia. And then I switched flights from Ethiopia to Cape Town, South Africa. I remember getting there, and there's all these runners from around the world. And here I am, just a guy that, who doesn't look like a runner, right? I got a little size to me. It was cool to see all these people coming together to try to tackle this big challenge. So we had to fly from Cape Town, South Africa, because the first race was in Antarctica. And we flew from Cape Town to Novo is the name of the place. We landed on an ice runway. And when we landed, it was like super bright white. It was unreal, like how bright it was. So everybody, you have to wear shades while you're out there, just because of the glare of how bright and beautiful it is. So you're basically like running around the outer edge of the runway. So you would go down one way, and then it would be like super cold, right? And then you would turn and then come back the opposite direction, and then it'd be super hot. So then, like, my clothes that I had on, right, it would start to, freeze up because it was so cold. First run is in Antarctica, then we fly back to South Africa, and that was, like I say, about a 6-hour flight. And then we land in South Africa, and then after that we started to run. And where you run at is near the coast, and then like in the far distance, you can kind of see, I guess, where Nelson Mandela was held out there, what they call like Mandela Island. From South Africa, we flew to Perth, Australia. Where we were running was near this cricket stadium. I don't know if y'all have been around Australia, but they like to have a good time. So they were, cheering us on. So from Australia, we ended up flying to Dubai, United Arab Emirates. When you go to Dubai, people tell you that money can't buy you happiness. That is one of the things that is not true. That is not true at all. I don't care who you are. Like, hey, go to Dubai. You will never say that ever again in your life. And then while we were running on a man-made island, like near the man-made island. And it was really cool. Like, it's cool to go from Antarctica to South Africa to Perth, Australia. They all have different cultures. And now I'm in Dubai, running on the beach there. And then there's people that are, dressed in their traditional, garbs and stuff. So those from Dubai, we went to Lisbon, Portugal, which is, it's one of those cities it's very beautiful too. It's like near the coast. we were able to go run at the beach. It was like, well, near the coastline there. And I just remember these like cobblestones. The cobblestones looked like the yellow brick road, but it was now we're at night, or like it was really rainy. And so while we were running, a lot of people kept slipping and falling because the cobblestone was just it just didn't have any grip to it, because you figured it had been there for years. But I just remember the best part about Lisbon, Portugal, which I forgot to mention at the beginning, was that's where I met my idol, Ted Jackson, because he was part of the World Marathon Challenges. What they do is they bring a lot of the old folks that were like the pioneers, like the legends, the ones that were from the special, because that was the first year that they did it. That was the best part for me. Once I saw him, I was like, oh my gosh, it's him, like the guy that I saw eat while I was eating cereal. So we went from Lisbon, Portugal to Cartagena, Colombia, South America. And we landed. That's another amazing, beautiful country. So if you ever get a chance, please check it out. So when we landed in the airport, there was a group of kids that were there to kind of cheer us on, which was really, really cool. Like, because you don't really expect anybody to really be paying attention to you. So everything that's going on, like the world doesn't stop moving just for us. So we're just there to run this this event. And while we're there, like we start and people are still shopping, walking around, like the town's still moving, cars zooming past us. There's people on mopeds honking. It was like the most exhilarating part of the run that we had, because it was like you're just living in this, this city, and it's not adjusting for you. So for Cartagena, Colombia, South America, we went to Miami, Florida. So there that's like the last place. So you knew, like, okay, I just got to get through this. Because the one part people don't understand is that from these different events, like there wasn't a lot of time to recuperate and rest. And I really enjoyed that run because it just, I don't know, it just made me appreciate, like, America and like where I was at, and how I was able to just get through all that and then finish. And so when I finished, I found out that I was the first American under the World Marathon Challenge banner to finish a half marathon on every continent in under a week, or in 7 days. Traveling back home, right, just to get back, I had to fly from Miami, and I flew into Minneapolis, Minnesota. And while I'm sitting there, a sign that has the whole world. And I remember just sitting there eating my Chick-fil-A sandwich and looking up, and I was like, man, I just ran across the whole world. So it kind of hit me there. But so the family invited me down to Maxwell Air Force Base down on the Gunter Annex, and to the Enlisted Heritage Hall where they had the unveiling of the memorial. It was probably one of the proudest moments I had, was just knowing that I was able to run around the world, represent their family, raise money for the memorial, and then also just get to meet them on a personal level. And in October of 2018 is when I submitted the paperwork to Guinness. It wasn't until March of 2020 is when I actually was approved as the official Guinness World Record holder for running a half marathon on every continent in 6 days, 7 hours, and 4 minutes. You never really know until you try, right? Because people will tell you that you can't do stuff, but realistically, the only person that's holding you back is yourself. So that's my advice to people: just remember, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And even if you don't reach your goal, when you look back, you'll come a lot further than where you were at. And that's the key, is to not give up, because if you give up, then you never will know, right?